car for your free case evaluation. Don't let the medical bills pile up, and don't let the insurance companies try to settle your claim for a few $100s. Call 714-464-3246. The law offices of Aria Thadakar serves all of California. If they don't win, you don't pay. So call now, 714-464-3246. This is a paid-for attorney advertisement by the law offices of Aria Thadakar of Orange, California.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Inner Voice. A heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and have Sean in studio. This is an opportunity for us to chat today about you, about your life, about everything that matters to you most. In this show, I will bring you the latest research today, actually about anger and how to get rid of it by meditation. And then I will talk to Jan Desai, someone who really inspires me and all of you. And I'm excited to talk to her. And then I will get the chance to talk to you. So please call at 951-922-3532. We'll be right back.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
This past week, I have really thought about and felt anger. Every time I turned on the television, every time I looked at any news, every time I looked at how we have been together, anger showed up. Anger showed up in my own life. Anger showed up as I was talking to friends. And finally, I thought, anger is all over the place. And it's not just with me, but it provokes me, and it must provoke all of you. So it's like, do we want to live in anger? Does it work for all of us? Or does it just create hate and more uproar for all of us? So I started looking at some research to bring to you in, what's going on with anger and the research, the latest research that's coming up. And I came up recently with children who attend school with many kids from violent neighborhoods can earn significantly lower test scores than peers with classmates from safer areas. I know that in the news there's been a lot of talk about children this past week or two. So I thought this latest research might also help you. According to a Johns Hopkins University study, in schools where more kids have a high exposure to violence, the study found that their classmates' scores, as much as 10%, was lower on annual standardized math and reading tests. The findings, which demonstrate how urban violence and school choice programs can work together to spread collateral damage, appear today in the Journal of Sociology of Education. Julia Burdick-Well, sociologist at Johns Hopkins, states, exposure to neighborhood violence has a much bigger impact than we think it does. It seeps into places that you don't expect. It can affect an entire school and how it's able to function. Previous research shows that children living in violent neighborhoods experience trauma that makes them more difficult to teach and is related to an increased likelihood of high school dropout and low test scores, as well as depression, attention problems, and discipline issues. Students who are in the same classes as these children also don't learn as well as scoring as much as 10% lower on annual tests. Dealing with urban violence has ripple effects we're only starting to understand, she says. We can't think about violence as something happening to kids in an isolated part of the city where I don't live. That's just the tip of the iceberg. High crime rates may be concentrated in specific areas, but their effects can be felt in schools all over the city. Now, you can also imagine when every time we turn on the TV, every time we turn on the social media, every time we're there, we're angry, and we can maybe have this type of anger at home and talk about it with our kids. Also, are we putting this on them? Are we creating more and more anger in our family units, in the way we are together, in our marriages, in our community, in our neighborhood, in our country, and in the world at large? So maybe we should just chill a bit and not take a stand only with our anger, but also take a stand with mindfulness, even if we were angry about taking a stance about anything in our life. So how can we keep cool and not let anger get out of hand? So I figured, hey, let me look at other studies. Maybe we could come up with that. So recent studies suggest mindfulness could help. Mindfulness is a state of being often developed through meditation practices, involves paying attention to our present circumstances with acceptance and non-judgment while enhancing our equanimity. In a study published in Mindfulness, David Desteno and colleagues gave half of the participants a daily mindfulness practice to do at home for 3 weeks, while the other half practiced solving cognitive puzzles and problems. The mindfulness practice guided participants to focus on their breath and body sensations, monitor thoughts and mind wandering, and develop a non-judgmental orientation toward their experience. Then in the lab, participants did a test measuring their executive functioning or cognitive control, which included the ability to inhibit unwanted behavior, and then delivered a short presentation about their future goals to another person. Unbeknownst to the participant, the listener was a confederate of the researchers and always delivered a very, very nasty critique of the talk, no matter what the content was. Afterward, participants were first asked how they felt, including how angry they were, and then told they've been randomly assigned to create tasting sample of their critique using few ingredients, and one of them being a super spicy hot sauce. Researchers used the amount of hot sauce added to the sample to represent a participant's willingness to inflict harm on another person. Results showed that meditators gave significantly less hot sauce to the person who critiqued them than non-meditators did, even though they were equally angry after the critique. In other words, meditators were less willing to be vengeful. According to the Steno, this result fits in well with the theory of mindfulness and meditation. It's doing exactly what the developers of meditation hoped that it would do: increase ethical behavior by preventing people from inflicting harm on another person in a situation where that's the norm. How does that work? Interestingly, the meditators' reduced desire for revenge didn't seem to come from increased cognitive control as measured by the tests. Hypothesis that mindfulness may work in a bottom up fashion rather than helping people inhibit behavior or suppress emotion in the controlled top down way. This could be good news for those people who just can't control their anger. Rather than trying to control an impulse that you have, which is stressful and requires effort, mindfulness decreases your desire to cause harm in the first place. That means you're less in conflict with your own motivation and true self. Though it could be that mindfulness practices make more people dispassionate around anger, the Steno says he believes they actually reduce aggression by increasing compassion so that people just have less desire to hurt other people. Previous studies, for example, have shown how mindfulness may lead to more compassionate behavior and less surface acting or expressing a different emotion than you actually feel. It does seem clear that mindfulness is a practice that can reduce hostility and violence, whatever environment you're in. And I really request for all of us to, when angry, to look at what the message of the anger is and to take care of yourself. Listen to the message because it's just an emotion is telling you what needs to be taken care of by you. And then look at how can you be giving the message, taking care of yourself and everyone around you in a way that it's a win-win situation for all of us, for you and everyone around you. That makes life much easier versus you living in a revengeful, hateful, and angry space all the time. So with that said, we're going to come back and talk with Jan Desai, which with all that she has ever gone through, she has inspired herself, her family, and everyone around her. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Jan Desai.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Don't miss out on the free KMET smartphone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Were you recently injured in a car accident? Then you need the law offices of Aria Thadakar for your free case evaluation. Don't let the medical bills pile up and don't let the insurance companies try to settle your claim for a few $100s. Call 714-464-3246. The law offices of Aria Thadakar serves all of California. If they don't win, you don't pay. So call now, 714-464-3246. This is a paid-for attorney advertisement by the law offices of Aria Thadakar of Orange, California.
I am excited to have Jan Desai, who's an entrepreneur, a wife, a mother, and a philanthropist, with me. Her life and work are dedicated to giving women the inspiration and power they need to smash through convention and reclaim their dreams. Jan uses a lifetime worth of experience to teach others that they have the ability to create positive possibilities out of even the most negative of outcomes. A seasoned traveler on the path of life, Jan has always been called to this work, from distinct and successful careers in education, marketing, public relations, investment banking, and real estate development, to hosting a popular television show and to finding true love and motherhood after the age of 50. Jan's life validates her message that rules were made to be broken. She now brings this vision and this message to all women, empowering them to live outrageously, to live authentically, and to live a life full of meaning, joy, and courage. Welcome, Jan.
Dr. Foojan, I'm so honored to be with you and your audience today. Thank you so much.
It's so excited to be able to speak with you. Sister Jenna talks so highly of you, and she insisted for me to have you on the show. And then I went on your website. I love your website. Everyone who's listening and watching me, please, please go to Jan's website, jandesai.com. It is gorgeous and wonderful and inspiring.
Thank you. It is also a testimony to the ability for each of us, regardless of what's happened in life, to step into that space of being our truest, most honest self. And when we can do that and drop all of the beliefs that we've had, that we had to show up a certain way or behave a certain way or look a certain way, when we can drop that, then the magic and the miracles start to happen. And I want all of your listeners to know that I'm going to be 61 in just a few weeks.
Yay!
And, yes, and even though that is the case, I found my true love at the age of 50. He is a man who is 21 years younger than I am. We had 4 children. We have 4 children, a set of twins that are 5, a set of twins that are 3. And I am now traveling the country inspiring women to live their most authentic life. So don't give up on your dreams.
That is so true. So tell me about life when you weren't authentic to yourself. What kicked you to want to be authentic, and the difference today as you are?
Well, it's a great insight, and I know so many of the listeners are going to identify with what I had to say. All of us grow up in family systems where we are set up to believe we need to be a certain way to be loved. Now, that doesn't mean that we're here to blame people for the way that we were raised, that there are excuses for the way that we grow up or the way we turn out when we grow up. It simply is the box that we grew up in, and we're raised by people who did the best that they could. So essentially, I grew up believing that I had to be smart, I had to be perfect, I had to produce results in order to be worthy of love. And so then I set out for the next almost 50 years doing just that. I used to say that if there were a mountain in front of me, there were 3 things I would do. I would either climb it, I would move it, or I would blow it up. But I was going to get the results that I needed to get. So there was no grace in the way that I would meet life. I would play hard, I would play fast, I would get things done. And in doing that and in living life that way, I became angry, I became despondent, I was depressed. When I played by the rules of the game as I saw it, and the outcomes weren't the way that I thought it should be, I believed that God or the universe had a great big bullseye on my back, and that I was being taken out. So I took everything personally. I believed I was a victim. And what we usually do is, because we're energetic beings, I mean, we look at our bodies, and they look like these dense, 3-dimensional, flesh and blood and bones. That's what we see, but we're so much more than that. We are truly energy. And It is the energy that we put out into the world that reflects back to us our reality. So that harshness, that anger, that need to be perfect drew to me a relationship that I was in for over 21 years that created a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, a lot of depression. I have 2 older children who I love with all my heart, and they're very close to my younger children now. But it was a dysfunctional relationship. And even though it was dysfunctional,
because you were not true to yourself. When you were talking, it reminded me of an experience I had when I was about 25, and I was working in a corporate world in sales, and my manager kept telling me, your sales are not that great. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I said, okay, just teach me. I'm doing everything that I can, And she said, you're just too nice. You're nice to people. You're caring about everybody in the office. This is a competitive world. And I said, well, how do you want me to do this? And she said, well, compete with everybody and see what you can get. And she gave me direct access in how to be crudely competitive. So I got every single number, Jan, that you could imagine within 3 months. And she came and praised me, and she gave me this honorary plaque. And she said, oh, my God, thank you for listening to me. You made the top, dollars and numbers and all of that. I said, thank you. And then I went back to my desk and came back with a resignation letter. And she says, what happened? You just made it. What are you talking about? I said, because in what you said to me, you said in the whole office, now they're calling me Barracuda. And I didn't even know what Barracuda meant. So I went and checked what Barracuda meant. And I thought, oh my God, I listened to this way of being. I turned myself to someone which everybody hated, but you tell me that I'm just an awesome person who created these numbers. I don't like who I've become. And I left. And it made my life much easier and more loving toward myself and everybody. So as you said that, it came up for me where you're right. When we're not true to who we are, we don't live very well. And the universe will only bring the rest of the mirroring of who we're not supposed to be keeps coming to our life.
That's true. And what's amazing, Dr. Foojan, is that you had the ability and the courage to make that decision in your 20s. Most women can't do that, aren't willing to do that, or are afraid to be able to, step into that reality. For me, it took until I was 50 years old. I couldn't love myself. I looked at my reflection, and all I saw were the stories, the embarrassments, all the places where I was broken. And so I would say to everyone, our job, our number one job, and our fastest way to true happiness, it's got to come from falling deeply and madly in love with yourself, with the true self of who you are. Curly hair, straight hair, thick hips, short, tall. Whatever it is, we have to be able to relate to ourselves inside for who we are, who we're meant to be. And when we start on that path, that is when we start to attract a life that will absolutely blow you away.
Very true. And you talk a lot about the authentic self. Tell me what you mean about authentic self.
To me, an authentic life is one that supports and aligns with your highest being. What I mean to say is that is the person that you were meant to be. That's the person that you came into life to rediscover. It's a life that's filled with ferocious courage and unflinching honesty. And this is the courage that allows you to break the rules and challenge the conventions that separate you from the life that you deserve. I can tell you at the age of 50, when I finally broke up from my marriage that I had been in for more than 20 years, I was never going to date again. I was going to be alone. I wanted to work on myself. I was not going to spend the second half of my life out of alignment with who I was. But what that meant for me was being open to possibilities that I didn't even recognize existed. So many women come to me and think that they know what it takes to live an authentic life. They'll come with a laundry list. I need to have a job that pays $200,000 a year. I need to have 4 children. I need to have a house that's at least 5,000 square feet. I need to be married to a man who's at least a lawyer or a doctor. And what that does is that narrows your field of possibility, because essentially what you're doing is you're showing up to life with, I'll call it a Crayola box of 8 crayons. These are the 8 crayons that you love. These are the ones that you want to color with. These are the ones that you're most comfortable with. These are the ones that you're capable of imagining a life around. Well, universe has a box of 64 crayons that it's trying to give you every single day. And if you're hanging on to your 8 little crayons, you have no idea what you are missing out on. I can tell you it never occurred to me after I had turned 50, after I'd had a radical hysterectomy, after I had been ill, after I had struggled with self-medication, that I could step into a life with someone. As I said, my husband's 21 years younger. He's Indian. I had never met an ethnic Indian person in my life. I never imagined that I would actually have a house filled with wonderful little children. I didn't imagine that I'd be out on the road instead of selling people hard goods. Now I'm inspiring people with all of the stories that I used to be so embarrassed about. So authenticity is being able to sit back in the truth of who you are, recognizing that every experience that you had serves as a gift for you to share in the world. There isn't an individual out there today who can tell me a story that I would be shocked at. More often than not, I would say, me too, I know exactly what you're talking about. I now represent a safe space for people to come and land and feel like this is home. I'm loved for who I am. I don't have to be anybody other than the person I was born to be. That is true authenticity.
And as you were talking, I was experiencing that at one point you stopped this limitation that maybe the society and all of the boundaries put on you, and then you put on yourself also, because you bought into that, and then you put it on yourself. And then at one point it all crashed. It's like you did everything that you were supposed to do the way that the society said you should, and you just weren't happy. And then you said, that's it. I'm going to let go, and I'm going to play. I'm going to open myself up to playing. And it seems like you allowed yourself just to play with whatever that universe was showing up, whether it was an Indian man who was much younger than you, and or it was about having 2 twins at the age of 50 after your hysterectomy, and just playing now with every human being who comes in front of you, and they're your playmate with whatever shows up.
It's true, and what's interesting is when my long-term relationship broke up, I committed to myself that I was not going to date, that I was going to really focus on the work that I needed to do for myself. So I took just under 2 years, and I did traditional talk therapy. And from traditional talk therapy, I was moved into some different types of spiritual therapy. And from that, I was moved into shamanic work and then body work. It was almost as if I were a chess piece on a giant chessboard. And something was moving me magically into each different arena of support and help. And as long as I stayed quiet, I had to give myself quiet time, something I had never done in the past. I had to start creating new ways of being that would allow my body, my soul, my mind to rest. But I love this story. When I started out on this journey, I was an avid gardener, and I tore out my entire backyard. I had to create some level of perfection in my exterior world because my interior world had absolutely imploded. So I tore out all of my grass, I tore out the bushes, I tore out the trees in my backyard, and I would spend hours and hours at different garden centers trying to find something that would give me inspiration. And one day I was in a generations-old garden center, and I was walking on the back lot where there were acres and acres of trees, and I turned a corner, and there was the most amazing bougainvillea, which is a beautiful tropical plant, and it was growing inside a 5-foot boulder. Now, it's not that it had rooted in the ground and grown through the boulder, but it had literally taken up residence as a seed in the boulder and grew out and had turned into this gorgeous plant. It was as if God itself had come down and said, look at this. Out of adversity, out of the toughest circumstances, such beauty can grow. And It was speaking to me, and I said, that will be the anchor in my garden. I turned down the next row, and again, that quickly was struck by another plant. It was an oak tree that it had been cleaved in half by lightning, and there was an 8-foot branch that was growing parallel to the ground, and then came up and grew about 6 feet straight up. The most beautiful trunk, and you could see where it had been struck, where it had been burned. You could see the bark, it had been singed. And again, a specimen that had been struck with all the fire, all the fierceness that nature could deliver, and yet it survived. And so I purchased that piece as well. So those two messages from the universe became the anchor points in my garden of possibility. And I tell that story because if we slow down enough, we will begin to see that we are surrounded by amazing synchronicities, messages that are going to inspire us every single day to step more deeply into that life of authenticity. We just have to be willing to slow down, to take some quiet time, and to start looking at practices like you spoke about in the beginning when we were talking about anger, mindfulness practices that will allow us to be open to all the love and all of the support that is always coming through to us.
So, Jan, as you wake up in the morning, what do you say to yourself to get you ready for the world as it shows up? Because obviously you've taken on a concept about who you are and how the universe and the nature and all of that is. And the world tests us. People who are driving on the street, people who want to do business deal with us, people who are, they're into their own game, but every game that they play with each other impacts all of us or many of us. What do you say to yourself to keep being the authentic self that you are, the part that you choose to be? Because our authenticity is also our emotions. They're also our anger and hurt and, upset. Authenticity doesn't just mean that I'm, going around all day saying I love the whole world. There is a part of us that as a human being, we get affected constantly. But you say something to yourself to get yourself back into that kind of inquiring playfulness of knowing that you're resilient.
I am so glad you're asking this question because I don't want to fool people into believing that I live some magical life where I never get angry or I never lose it with my kids or my husband doesn't make me crazy. That isn't the case at all. Living your most authentic life is living in alignment with the truth of who you are. And as human beings, we are going to get angry. We are going to be very sad. We are going to feel shame. We're going to feel guilt. We're going to feel all of those feelings. Being authentic, first and foremost, is allowing yourself to feel those emotions, and when they come up, not to stuff them down and pretend that they don't exist, because that will throw you off your authentic life and back into a life where you're not being yourself. So you have to feel your emotions. But when it comes to my eyes opening every morning, my life has fundamentally changed. I grew up a Catholic girl. I went to convent schools, and I was always a fervent prayer, asking for things that I didn't have, wanting to know why bad things were happening when I'm such a good person. that has completely shifted for me. I open my eyes every morning, and the first thing I say is thank you. I have a life that is infused with gratitude. I turn my head and I look at my husband and I say thank you. Thank you for having this incredible man in my life who loves me in this moment and who can meet me and support me in all that I need. I put my feet on the floor, and it's a prayer of gratitude. Thank you. At 61, I'm healthy. I don't have any health issues. I'm taking good care of myself. I walk and I get my first cup of tea in the morning, and that's a sacred practice. I walk slowly. I slowly steep my tea bags. And I thank myself for having the awareness that I've adopted practices that are kind to myself. So I think the most important thing that we need to look at and what we need to adopt is a gratefulness practice. Now, I'll tell you quickly, one of my 3-year-olds was born with complex congenital heart disease. She was in the hospital for most of her first 2 years of life and ended up needing a heart transplant. One night she flatlined for 8 minutes.
Wow.
So we've had a real tough time with Celeste, and it would be very easy to go into bitterness and anger and why does that have to happen. Instead, she serves as my greatest teacher. She has shifted the value system that we have as a family. Every day is a celebration. Every day that she is with us, we fall on our knees in gratitude. And rather than looking at the unfairness of it, we are filled with such feelings of profound gratitude and love for what she has brought to this family. So when things go bad, and life is always going to deliver births and deaths, it's always going to deliver high points and low points. I'm not saying that you should be grateful for the awful things, but when awful things are happening, we need to be able to come to a place where we can find some level of gratitude for something.
Absolutely. It teaches us that life has ups and downs, and through the ups and downs, we learn. Thank you so much, Jan, for being with us, inspiring us. Real quick, how could people find you? And do you have courses, classes? What do they do to find you and be inspired by you?
Absolutely. Well, I would invite everybody to come to jandesai.com. That's JANDESAI.com. I have a wonderful free gift teaching people how to reclaim their dreams. You can get that there. You can come to my Facebook page at Jan Desai Official. Please come and like me there and move into relationship with me. And I'm going to be at the Omega Center in Rhinebeck, New York, July 6th through 8th, and I'm going to be teaching people how to find the courage to do things differently and live their most authentic life. And you can get all the information on that on my website. Dr. Foojan, it's been such an honor to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have goosebumps. I think you're amazing, and I hope that everyone who's listening to us goes to jandesai.com. It's a great website. I love it. You'll be so entertained just with her gorgeous pictures of family, her beautiful writing. Just listen, just going through it is inspiring. So thank you, Jan, for being with us. Everyone, be right back. I'm going to talk to you. So call me 951-922-3532. Remember, your experiences are the jewel. Your sharings are the jewel. The same way Jan's sharings inspires me and all of you. Everything that you call, every conversation that you have with us, it helps everyone. So call me. Be right back.
It cannot be. You're too old. It's too late. Let it go. It's not your fate to you.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
Were you recently injured in a car accident? Then you need the law offices of Aria Thadakar for your free case evaluation. Don't let the medical bills pile up, and don't let the insurance companies try to settle your claim for a few $100s. Call 714-464-3246. The law offices of Aria Thadakar serves all of California. If they don't win, you don't pay. So call now, 714-464-3246. This is a paid-for attorney advertisement by the law offices of Aria Thadakar of Orange, California.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at foojan.com or amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Okay, welcome back to Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and we have Robert online. Hello, Robert.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
So tell me a little bit about you and what's your question?
So I am living in Newport Beach, and I am a father of 3 children, ages 10, 8, and 8. And my question is around, there's been a number of recent news reports around video game addiction and how it leads to mental illness. It's now recognized as legitimate mental illness. And, you know, with 3 kids who are very active on their iPads and gaming, I'm curious to know if you have any insights as to the signs, early signs of addiction, and if you happen to have any just practical advice on how to handle this with my children. I mean, I certainly want them to be, you know, entertained and engaged, and they're on these iPads with their friends, and so I don't want to completely remove them, but just curious if you have any practical advice on how to deal with that.
Thank you. That is such an important conversation and worry that all parents have. I know that through the iPad, through the apps, through many different ways that we can learn, all of these technologies have been helpful. I've known technologies who work actually with kids doing the brushing their teeth and creating, hygiene for themselves. So it's your parental guidance about what works for them as they get engaged and supports them. It helps when they're active with some sort of a I could say game, but not in a game that it activates their pleasure concepts, but it activates some cognitive concept for them, where they get to learn more and more, where they can even do the game through the iPad, but they're moving their body with it. So they'll get their physical activity and motor skills with it also. So you can look at what is it that they're watching and playing with. Yes, gaming in the format of the game that creates rewards at the end and it escalates can create addiction. And what they've found in the research is when they looked at with functional MRIs in the brain of the child is that the children who enjoy the game and have fun with the game, and then they can let it go and have time intervals, they get to enjoy it and learn it the way it's supposed to be and intended to be, is for fun and pleasure. But if you find your kids that they're getting stressed by it and they really have to win, and then they get angry and they have this craving that they have to go back for, that type of a pleasure again and again and again, it's pretty much starting that addictive behavior concept. So what I would suggest is watch their behavior and allocate different times for different play, so that they would get to play outside with their friends. They get to play with water, with sand, with fire, with everything that is a component of nature, that they get to have relational time, face to face, eye to eye, with you, with your wife, with their own friends and peers, and in intervals to have the games that they need to get or even play with on the internet. But even when you're doing some apps or talk with them into working with the different scenarios on YouTube or different types of applications, watch those applications first, see yourself what they're teaching them. And if they're teachable concepts, awesome. They can have them for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, let go do something else, come back, do another one. And if it comes out to games, just allow time frames. Again, 20 minutes to an hour for a game. Then they've got to get up and do something else. Part of it, Robert, is teaching your children how to have balance on a day-to-day basis, an hour-to-hour basis. When you teach them as early as they are, then it'll be much easier, and those addictive parts in the brain do not get triggered as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
What are you doing right now? What type of games are they allowed to play at this time?
Well, they're all in love with Minecraft. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's what they enjoy about it is that they could each be on their own device and essentially play together. So they can be in the same rooms, that they can see what they're doing, and they build various various homes or what have you. And so for them, the fun is that they could actually essentially play together, and yet they're on their own little device.
So I think it's beautiful that they do that. And then because they want to play together, are there other devices or other games that they can do playing together outside during the day for a period of time?
Yes, it's not as though I don't view them as having an issue at all today. I think it's quite healthy the way they are right now. I just wanted to see if there were things, before it escalates, what should I be doing, or what considerations should I take into account before things become problematic. I think they're fairly healthy with it right now. Like, if I were to say, okay, guys, let's stop, it is stopped immediately. It's not as though it causes a big issue. And they certainly play amongst each other outside of just that, the device and the games. So I think it's in a good spot.
The other comment that I would say is to also speak with them where they can begin regulating themselves, because sometimes we only get regulated by the outside world, right? You would tell them to stop, and they will go until you will tell them to stop. So part of the learning for them is also the concept of balance in life. Like at one point, I don't have to come every morning and say, let's wake up, let's, do your bed, let's brush your teeth, let's do this, let's do that. And we do because we're parents and we've got to do it. But there's also this part where we get to teach them. And if you have the ability, if you have the cognitive ability and the physical ability, then I want you to do it yourself. And I will be the supervisor and monitoring to make sure that you've also done it. So this way you create self-esteem and self-confidence for your children, and for them to take responsibility and accountability for the things that they can learn on their own. So as soon as, the same way as soon as we could party train them, we don't keep having them wear diapers. As soon as they can actually wear their shoes, we don't have to go and say, no, don't wear your shoes, I'm going to put it on you. So the same thing, you can take it on with every task that they have ability to do, have them become responsible and accountable for it. And at times they might make mistakes or forget or do that. And we're just there to kindly remind them that this is the time for it. And the same thing can be done in playing with games, where they have to get that with time frames, and balance is important. So they should also be responsible for balancing their life through things that they like and the games that they like, and balancing between their body being utilized in a particular way outside, becoming intertwined with each other, seeing each other, playing games, different types of games. Sometimes do an active game, sometimes do a passive game, and for them to come up also and show it to you, to say, look, I'm balancing my own life. I'm balancing the way I eat food, the way I clean, the way I do my hygiene, the way I play games, the way I study. So they will feel really good also about themselves when they come to you and say, look how balanced I'm able and capable of doing this for myself. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yes, thank you.
And this will also take a lot of power differences and power trips between the two of you, or you and your other kids, to be able to move forward with what you need to do versus constantly getting in struggle with them.
Right. Yes, that makes perfect sense.
Anything else?
Well, I just want to thank you for your advice, and it was really helpful.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
And
have
I
a
hope
good day.
you have an amazing time with your kids and the games.
Thank you so much.
So it's interesting in how we are all wanting to be amazing parents, and having to be an amazing parent. It's difficult. And yet, if we know the principles that work for ourselves and how it works for our life, then we share. When we're the same way Jan was saying, authentic about who I am and what I can do, then I can share it with my children. If I can be a balanced person in my own life, then I can turn around and tell my children, you need to have a balanced life. If I haven't worked that in my own life, if I'm constantly on my phone or do things that I'm not taking care of myself and my life is not a balance, then they won't learn by watching. They won't learn by me telling them, because they watch me not being balanced. So therefore, they're going to continue to do the things that their brain says, oh, I just want to have pleasure, and I see my parents doing it. So therefore, I'm just going to do whatever it is that I'm going to do, and then I'll push back. And that creates a lot of the power struggles between parents and children. There's a way of being conscious of who you are and the effects that you have, the way you think about yourself, your life, the way that you feel about yourself and your life, the way that you behave toward yourself and your life, and the way that you think about parenthood and how you would like to present that. And those are the pieces where the more you become aware of yourself and create a healthy life for yourself, that way of being gives you the pathways to transfer that to your children. The exercises are there for you in the Life Reset book. You can go through the awareness integration model, which allows you to become more aware of yourself and integrate who you are into a whole being. And the more and the faster you do that, then you create that same system with your children, and you allow them to also be able to observe themselves, be able to become responsible and accountable for themselves, and to have this beautiful relationship together. Thank you for listening with your heart. Thank you for being with us, and take great care of yourself and everyone around you, and create an amazing life of just play for you and everyone. Until next week, bye-bye.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
News, talk, and sports for the Inland Empire. AM 1490 KMET, Banning, Beaumont, Redlands.
From ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Kevin McEllennan says reuniting some 2,300 kids separated from their parents crossing illegally at the border has been a challenge. And he says there's got to be a better way.
We need to highlight the fact that the immigration system is broken. The last 3 administrations have said it with clarity to the American people that changes in the law need to happen for our border to be secure and for our immigration system to work effectively.
McEllennan says 538 kids have been reunited with their parents. White House spokeswoman Sarah Sanders is speaking publicly for the first time since her husband and she were asked to leave a Lexington, Virginia restaurant because she works for